Dog person, cat person, platinum person, you will not want to miss Stray, and here is why. Stray is an indie game released in July of 2022. It is a heartfelt game featuring many themes. Oh, and you get to play as a cat, so I've convinced you, haven't I? And boy, do you play as a cat. You get to do such things as push objects off of shelves, meow, and hiss at things. But most importantly, you get to rub yourself against the many characters of the game. It's a hell of a lot of fun, and Blue 12 Studios have really nailed the behaviours of our protagonist. As for the trophies, Stray is for the most part an enjoyable trophy experience. You have your story-based trophies, collectible trophies, quite a few miscellaneous trophies, and a speedrun trophy. Nothing overly exciting, but largely not offensive either. Looking at you, Outer Wilds. In total, the game took about 15 hours to platinum, with one partial playthrough over on Twitch, and a full run that combined the speedrun and collectibles for this video. Now, as with my Resident Evil 7 Platinum Standard video, there'll be spoilers for the game, so if you do need to finish Stray up, maybe chuck on a profile review as you grind out that speedrun. Still with me? Let's jump into the Stray. Chapter 1, Inside the Wall. The game starts off with our furry protagonist simply hanging out with the boys as they await what appears to be a storm to pass. As the thunder and rain belts down around our hidey hole, our cat, who I affectionately named Jeffrey, plays with his 3 companions before sleeping the storm off. We're not 5 minutes into the game and the cuteness meter is already reading off the charts. Once the rain has receded, Jeffrey and the gang leave their shelter and you begin a largely linear level of pipe crossing. This level is mostly just introduces the player to how movement will work in the game. There is, however, one vital thing to look out for. This tree here can be interacted with and thus scratched. Kitty Cat can scratch objects in every chapter, and for the trophy territory, this is necessary. I had issues getting this trophy to pop. I believe if you restart a checkpoint before the game autosaves, your scratching isn't counted. Thankfully, these can be cleaned up with chapter select. With our tree scratching out of the way, Jeffrey goes for a long jump, fails spectacularly, and plummets into the depths below, in a scene that triggered far too many of my childhood emotions. But hey, we got our first trophy of the run, so that counterbalances things. Chapter 2, The Dead City. After dusting ourselves off, we very quickly discover we've fallen into a lost city of sorts. Fittingly named Dead City, the chapter has us exploring a city that has been abandoned, construction work left clinging to buildings, rooms left furnished, and rugs left to be scratched. It's truly eerie. Now, this chapter is also home to one definite trophy and a second potential trophy. As we explore deeper into the Dead City, we're introduced to the Zerk, a bacteria developed by the past inhabitants of this city, originally intended to eat garbage, but now kind of eat everything. Bit of an oversight if you ask me. Our first encounter with them is a chase sequence, one where you must traverse several minutes of gameplay, all whilst these little orange balls of death hurl themselves at you. It is both thrilling and disturbing all at once. Said encounter is also where we will get 2 trophies. No More Lives tasks the player with dying at least 9 times, whilst Can't Catch Me requires the player to navigate this entire chase sequence without getting grabbed by the Zerk. No More Lives is easy. Simply stand still, let the Zerk suckle onto you, and restart the checkpoint. A couple minutes of this and you'll be rewarded with that sweet ding. Can't Catch Me, on the other hand, is a rough one, and will likely require multiple attempts of both learning the spawns of the Zerk, how best to get around these spawns, and pray the RNG is merciful. All in all, I think this trophy took about 20 minutes of attempts, with this section specifically being a pain. Trophies in hand, we move on to the next chapter. Chapter 3, The Flat. The Flat has the cat Scratch and Matt, Okay, I'll stop. Matt's aside, this building also houses our companion B12 and a trophy for meeting him. After solving the puzzle, I use the term puzzle loosely, and activating our robot friend, B12 provides us with a saddle and the most cat animation ever. This chapter also introduces the player to memories, a collectible type that is largely missable and needed for the trophy I Remember. Said memories further provide B12 with plenty of backstory for those players looking for more lore in this world. With B12 in tow, we make our way out of this rather brief chapter and into the slums. Chapter 4, The Slums. The Slums is the first hub level of the game, a large semi-open world segment that allows our kitty cat to traverse through dark narrow streets, up along the rusty roofs, and through people's homes, just like neighbourhood cats back home. This chapter is also home to quite a large amount of trophies, scratching spots, and memories. Almost immediately after meeting the local robots, we can scratch a mat and rub ourselves against this guy. Doing so to 5 different robots will net you the trophy, Cat's Best Friend. In this location, another trophy can be found. Simply pushing this basketball down the slope will reward us with Boom Chakalaka. I also earned 2 other trophies around this time as well. A Little Chatty requires Jeffrey to meow 100 times, whilst Catapult has the player jump 500 times. You could easily get these earlier, however, if you use these abilities frequently. After so many back-to-back trophies, we are rolling in dings. Tasked with meeting Momo, we climb up the many pipes and air conditioning units of the slums, ruining these guys' day in the process. Once in Momo's apartment, another trophy awaits us, in Curiosity Killed the Cat. Momo has given up on leaving the city and seeing a true sky. However, after setting out and retrieving 3 of his former colleagues' journals, we give him a fresh dose of hope, and he tasks us with placing a transmitter on the tallest tower of the area. We set out to achieve this, but not before playing all the channels on a nearby TV and delivering several musical notes to the local James Hetfield. Ding ding. Chapter 5, The Rooftops. A relatively short level, Rooftops is simple. Navigate our way over to the large building and dodge the Zerk on the way. Unfortunately for us, said building is home to quite a large nest of Zerk, and they haven't had dinner yet. I will also quickly point out that this is the chapter that finally popped the territory trophy for me, despite my recordings showing not only had I already used this scratching spot, but I had indeed received a checkpoint after doing so. Dodging the Zerk and climbing up the various layers of scaffolding has us nearing the top, but not before an elevator section that requires us to kite the Zerk around a series of narrow walkways whilst the elevator slowly shuffles down to collect us. Successfully dodged, and it is only a quick ride to the top, with the transmitter planted and a bucket ride back to safety. Seriously though, why can't the bucket express be just 2-way? It'd save so much time. Chapter 6, The Slums, Part 2. Jeffrey pops down to the local pub to relax, only to find Momo there already, with an active transmission from Balthazar. This discourages a local patron of the pub, revealed to be Balthazar's son. Momo devises a plan to break into Balthazar's former home, find a secret lab, and work out proceedings from there. Naturally, it's our job to do so, and in the most cat way possible, we find the lab. Chapter 7, Dead End. With the plan to locate Balthy, we set our way back into the dead city, with his son Seamus in tow. This section is once again largely linear, and has us essentially just waiting for Sunny B over here to open doors, curse our cat paws for not having thumbs. Upon meeting Balthy, he informs us of a secret weapon he has been making that will harness UV energy and disintegrate the Zerks who contact its beam. Naturally, said weapon needs to be powered on, and we must race out and turn on the switches. Thankfully, once powered up, old Balthy B provides us with covering fire as we return to the safety of his house. Balthy then typically needs to be escorted back to the slums. Thankfully, we are given the weapon and now play a game of cat and Zerk, annihilating all who stand in our path. It is truly glorious after all the dodging we had to do previously. It's just a shame we won't use the weapon ever again. The Sewers, one of the cool levels in my opinion, and one that contains another trophy. Pacifist tasks the player with finishing this level without harming a single Zerk. So there goes that cool new weapon we got last chapter. Taking a pleasant ride with Momo through the sewers has us essentially enjoying the scenery, before periodically jumping off the raft to find and turn on switches that allow us to proceed. Simple and cruisy, right? Well, this takes a turn when, after Momo is only able to open a gate high enough for us to squeeze through, we are thrown into the mother lode of Zerk nests. This place is filled to the brim with the self-proclaimed homing missiles and will test your dodging skills. Several levers and a horrific eye wall later, and we break free, escaping the nest for a well-deserved open world section. Chapter 9, Ant Village. Another really cool level. Ant Village revolves around a small community kinda shaped like, you guessed it, an anthill. It's probably my favourite of the 3 communities in the game, simply for how unique it is. Sadly, you don't actually spend too much time here, as the progression path is largely linear. Solve B12's personal crisis, gather up some plants, and climb out to Chapter 10. If any area was underutilized, this is it, especially given how much time is spent in both Midtown and the slums. Before we leave, however, there is one level-specific trophy here to receive, and that requires us to play Mahjong with these 2 lovely fellas over here. Now, I'm sure the Yakuza players watching are now ducking for cover or curled up in the fetal position, but this version of Mahjong simply requires us to jump on the table and ruin the entire game for everyone. I love being a cat. Chapter 10, Midtown. The last of the hub levels within Stray, Midtown is the bustling and busy, largely thriving settlement of the game. Tall buildings provide the setting for many establishments such as nightclubs, clothing stores, and apartment complexes. It really is pretty neat to see how the robotic civilization has taken what humanity left behind and has essentially continued where they left off. Now, this level does have quite a bit of point A to point B navigation as you set about locating the final member of Momo's team, Clementine, but of course not before raking in a couple more trophies for good luck. If you've been rubbing against the robots, chances are it is here that Cat's best friend will finally pop, whilst badges will pop upon the player finding the final badge of the game. One neat note about these badges is they appear on our cat saddle after collection. Now, Clementine has a plan. To escape the city, she wishes to steal an atomic battery from the local factory and use it to power up a train that we actually passed way back at the start of the game. To achieve this, we need to acquire a worker uniform and hard hat, give them to Clem's middleman, and hide in a box, ready for express delivery. If it is anything like Australia's postage, we'll be at the factory in 3 to 5 weeks. Upon arriving at the factory, we are introduced to the second and final enemy type, the Sentinel. These floating buggers patrol an area with their spotlight, and upon detection will shoot at the kitty. It is for this reason I'm declaring them my mortal enemies. The trophy Sneakity requires the player to navigate the entire factory and your return to Midtown without being detected by a Sentinel. Now, this is largely an easy task. Simply avoid the spotlights, and if they turn either yellow or red, restart the checkpoint. Retrieving the battery and returning to Clementine's abode, we find her missing and must decipher that she is at the local nightclub. One mystery drink, probably goon, later, and a trophy is available. Simply picking up a nearby record, placing it on the DJ deck, and scratching it will pop scratch. Probably not the intended way to scratch a deck, but hey, who is the real winner? Shortly afterwards, we find that Clem's former middleman has betrayed us, and Clem and Jeffrey are both bundled away to jail. Chapter 11, Jail. This level is very straightforward and equally as linear. Simply break out of your cage, navigate the corridors of the prison, and locate both Clem and B12. Clem is very easy to free. Simply make your way into the adjacent room and lower a lever. B12, on the other hand, is a lot trickier, as the poor bugger is surrounded by sentinels, all of which are eager to fry your furry behind. With both freed, we must make our daring escape on what might be the most glorious escape vehicle in gaming. Clem tragically parts ways with us in order to distract the sentinels in their pursuit, and we are once again left alone for the final chapter of the game. Chapter 12, Control Room. The final chapter is a very quick one, essentially comprised of a quick train ride and a single large operations room. Upon exiting the train, Jeffrey and B12 locate the control room, said room being the operation point for the roof of the dead city. This is also where humanity sealed off the city in order to prevent the Zerg from escaping. B12 tasks us with firing the place back up into a usable state, and once again we do this in the most cat way possible, walking over keyboards and tearing through wires. With the facility in full swing, B12 sacrifices themselves to open the roof. We mourn his loss with a cuddle, whilst the citizens of the dead city are introduced to sunlight for the first time. With the path back to the outside world now clear, we make our way back to the surface and to end the game. In achieving this, we unlock several trophies. Eye Opener is unlocked for completing the game. I Remember will pop here if the player successfully located all of B12's memories. Territory should pop if the player has scratched at least one object in every chapter. And lastly, if the game has been beaten in under 2 hours, I Am Speed will pop. My final run time, collecting all the memories and all but one of the scratching locations, had me only just squeezing into the speedrun requirement. Drumroll please. With a final time of 1 hour and 52 minutes. Sleep Trophy. With only one trophy between us and that juicy platinum, Jeffrey must do what he does best. Simply sleeping for 1 hour of real time has us awarded with our final trophy and the platinum. My 146th platinum to be precise. And that is Stray, an absolute gem of a game and one that is free to download and play, should you have access to PlayStation Plus Extra or Premium. This game developed a hell of a lot of hype upon being announced several months ago, and I do believe it largely delivers on said hype. Overall, the trophies are relatively easy to obtain, with Can't Catch Me being the only real hurdle. Overall, I would give this game 4 Vegemites out of 5 cat biscuits. Now, if you have made it this far, do be sure to leave a cheeky like and a subscribe. Maybe tune into the last Platinum Standard video on Resident Evil. And until next time, pop those plats.